Hello there, I'm Sans from Inclusive Magic, and in this video I'm going to talk about Stoic philosophy, ideas from ancient Greece and Rome with parallels to Buddhism that are geared at helping us to be more resilient and find more harmonious ways of relating to life. The word Stoic conjures up an image of someone unmoved and unfeeling. Stoic actually comes from the Greek for porch, stoa, which is where these guys used to hang out and muse. Stoics believe that we shouldn't base our happiness on things working out in life the way we want, because so much of that is out of our control. Instead, we should base it on what we can control, our actions and the way we choose to respond to things. Life then becomes a journey of building character. Now, why is this philosophy from ancient Greece and Rome relevant today? Because they were dealing with the same things we are, human experience, how to find happiness, how to coexist with other people, how to deal with adversity, how to live a good life. Many people have gravitated towards Stoic philosophy during the pandemic, which isn't surprising given that this is a time that has upended life and shown us just how little control we have over life. I started reading about Stoic philosophy a couple of years ago, and what attracted me to it was that the ideas were familiar. I was raised a Hindu, and so notions like do your duty according to nature, don't be attached to outcomes, I knew those from Hindu and Buddhist philosophy. These ideas sprung up around similar times in history, between say 450 and 300 BCE, and that was a period where Greece and India had interactions, so it's possible that these two cultures influenced each other. Stoic philosophy doesn't encourage you to do these things in order to win brownie points with a higher power and get into a good place, or to break a cycle of rebirths. It encourages you to do these things because in this insane world, it's the most rational thing to do. Now, Stoic philosophy will be familiar to you in another way, and surprise, surprise, that's another reason why I'm interested in it.
The Jedi are selfless. They only care about others.
Attachment leads to jealousy. The shadow of greed, that is.
This is what my brain normally looks like. I'll be happy if I get this career. I'm devastated because I got rejected by them. I'll be happy if that person likes me. I'm annoyed because this person doesn't behave exactly the way I want. I'll feel good about life if I don't have to deal with this responsibility or that person. I'm really angry because this person talked to me a certain way. I'm furious that a boorish monster like that can say what he wants on TV and lie, and there are no consequences, and people just lap it up. Why should I give way to other drivers if they never thank me? I've always been someone whose happiness depends on external things, usually career and achievement. My good friend would always say to me, stop externalizing your happiness. And I'd think, well, what else is there? What else am I supposed to do? Stop aspiring to anything? Passion is what gives me life.
The Sith rely on their passion for their strength.
One answer to the question, what else do we do, is savor the little things. Good coffee, sunshine when it happens, sea breeze, hugs, laughing with your friends, dancing. These are precious things that we shouldn't take for granted. Some people can't count on these things. But we also have this desire to find meaning, to fulfill our potential. And it is a natural human tendency to want more, right?
I want more.
Maybe it comes from a place of lack. We distract ourselves from a sense of internal nothingness. Maybe the pandemic has forced us to sit with ourselves and see how we need to be enough. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Stoic and Buddhist ideas. Antonia and Macaro did a great book showing the parallels between the two. The Buddha said desire was the source of our unhappiness. Wanting something and feeling like you can't have it, whether that's a career, an object, an experience, a relationship, something about our body or our appearance, greater wealth, acclaim, status, or the cooperation of other people. Not wanting something, ill health, pain, conflict, difficulty, difficult people. Not wanting something to end, including life. The Stoics say our suffering comes from faulty judgments about what is good or bad. We think the things in that list are good and bad, but Stoics call them indifferent. They don't say renounce them, but they say train your mind to let go of them and not be attached.
Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
Why? Because so many of these things are outside of our control. If we hang on things working out a certain way or people doing what we want, we will be disappointed a lot. But a mindset of lower your expectations and you'll never be disappointed isn't that inspiring. It feels like a damage limitation approach to life. Now granted, some people's circumstances may only allow for that. And there is value in recognizing that life is painful and don't make it harder for yourself by fighting that. But a vision of life needs to be positive. It needs to offer something to aspire to, not just defend against. For Stoics, it's about redefining happiness, from pleasure, hedonia, to flourishing, eudaimonia, unlocking your inner genius, being your best self. They define best in terms of living in accordance with virtue, specifically 4 virtues that come from Aristotle: wisdom, justice, courage, moderation. If you judge every moment of your life not by whether you like what's going on around you, but whether you're trying to live in accordance with those virtues, then, say the Stoics, you'll never have any real need to be unhappy. You'll be freed from depending on how other people behave in order for you to feel okay, and you'll be more resilient, able to bounce back from difficulty and overcome obstacles. So, what are these virtues? Wisdom is about having an accurate understanding of what's going on, a true perception of right and wrong. Justice is about fairness, doing the right thing by others even when it doesn't suit your interests. Moderation is the ability to pull back from dependency on desires and master your willpower. Being master of your domain, perhaps. Courage is often defined as not the absence of fear, but fearing and doing it anyway. And that includes standing up for yourself. Stoics don't expect you to turn the other cheek and be a martyr. But Stoics do say, if someone insults you, you can choose whether or not to feel insulted. You can deny it its power by choosing not to be insulted. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that people will be nasty and brutish. That's just how it is. Is there a risk here that we become a little aloof and start to see ourselves as superior to other people? Well, that's not the intention. Stoicism is based on the idea that acting with virtue is to live in accordance with nature. Far from wanting to isolate themselves, Stoics are motivated by the idea that we're part of a larger community, society, nature. So the individualism that is so important to our consumer culture isn't that important for them. They remind us how short our lives are in the grand scheme of things, how loads of people have lived and died, had their stories and been forgotten, and that'll be true of us too. So we can start to let go of our ego and not be so attached to our self-image. Stoicism can help us become less entitled. George Lucas talks about 2 kinds of happiness, pleasure and joy.
Pleasure is fun, it's great, but you can't keep it going forever. Just accept the fact that it's here and it's gone, and maybe again it'll come back and you'll get to do it again. Joy lasts forever. Pleasure is purely self-centered. It's all about your pleasure. It's about you. Joy is compassion. Joy is giving yourself to somebody else or something else. And it's a kind of thing that is, in its subtlety and lowness, much more powerful than pleasure.
Stoics actively engage with the world and all its contradictions, with civic life, with the well-being of our community. Marcus Aurelius was a great emperor. Seneca was an influential statesman, and Epictetus taught Stoicism after being a slave. There's something deeply powerful about this. Alright, so some tools that the Stoics use. One is taking the long view, putting your problems into perspective by situating them across a lifetime or the universe. Another is deliberate discomfort, denying yourself things that you take for granted in order to remind yourself how lucky you are and to not be dependent on them. Another is negative visualization. Sometimes we're aggrieved by things because they surprise us. We think, this shouldn't happen to me, even though actually it happens to everybody. So one thing that Stoics do is not be surprised. They inoculate themselves from that shock by imagining potential disasters. Does this seem a little harsh and cold? Aren't the emotions we feel precisely what make us human? What make us interesting? Yes. But life might be a bit easier if everything doesn't destabilize us. Setbacks will hurt us, but sometimes it's our interpretation of them that hurts us more than it needs to. This philosophy is about taking the edge off the anger and fear that we feel sometimes. And remember, it's not a religion, it's not a dictate. Anything you follow dogmatically will cause problems.
That burn inside you, that anger thinking what the Raiders are going to do, the books in the Jedi library say ignore that. Only act when you can maintain balance, even if people get hurt.
I thought they were in danger. I was trying to do something.
And that's what the resistance needs, not some old failed husk of a religion.
Now, here's the thing. Every theory needs to be tested to destruction. You have to try it in hard cases. So I'm going to talk about empathy, injustice, and grief. We use the word empathy a lot. We understand it to mean putting yourself in someone else's shoes and feeling what they must be feeling. Stoics don't put a lot of stock in that, but they are all about compassion. They think that showing pity to somebody doesn't actually help them, but instead you should do absolutely everything in your power to alleviate their suffering. I do think that if you're in pain, it helps to have someone mirror those emotions so that you don't feel alone. Sometimes you can't actually do anything to help somebody, and all you can do is really show them that you see them, you see their pain. Let's talk about injustice. Injustice makes us angry. But if we can't control how other people treat us, do we have to then just accept injustice? Do we simply choose not to be harmed and we have not been harmed? No. Justice is one of the virtues. Courage is another, taking action to stand up for justice. Gandhi and Mandela read Stoic literature in prison. The key is having clarity about what action you can take. It is admirable and worthy conduct to stand forth as the defender of one's parents, children, friends, and countrymen, at the call of duty itself, acting of one's own free will, forming a deliberate judgment, not in an impulsive, frenzied fashion. The feeling of injustice can motivate us to take action. But beyond that, holding on to anger can lead it to consume us. Lingering anger is, essentially, a feeling of powerlessness. As far as grief goes, Stoics and Buddhists see death as natural and inevitable, not something to be feared.
Death is a natural part of life. Rejoice for those around you who transform into the Force. Mourn them do not. Miss them do not.
But that approaches a level of detachment that doesn't feel right to many of us.
And of course, that's the problem. Anakin ultimately is you're allowed to love people, but you're not allowed to possess them.
Sure, but the people in our lives are so precious because we'd miss them if they weren't there.
But what is grief? If not love, persevering.
Seneca mourned the people that he lost because it's natural. Big things are gonna hurt. I think any philosophy that tries to insulate us from that is missing the point. Life is painful, but as Mark Manson says, maybe the meaning can come from choosing your particular pain. Stoicism isn't a recipe for bliss or getting the things you want in life. I also don't think it can realistically insulate you from ever feeling pain, nor should that be your goal. But it's a mental anchor that you can hold on to when your psyche is split in every direction. It can give you a sense of peace and trust in knowing that you are viewing life in the most rational way, you're trying at things, and you'll be equipped to deal with whatever you have to. In our world, that is something that you can reliably see as a meaningful way to live. If you want to learn more about Stoicism, check out some links below. Until next time, stay safe and keep sharing your magic.